She was overjoyed at having met someone who wanted to meet again. For the first time ever, she had made a real friend, and her heart swelled with optimism and excitement about their next meeting behind the bushes. In the coming weeks, Princess Adebisi's meetings with Odayami were the highlight of her days. Each afternoon, she would eagerly sneak away to their secret spot in the bushes, where Odayami would already be waiting with his drums. The two new friends enjoyed long, lively conversations, telling stories and jokes that had them laughing for hours. One afternoon, as Princess Adebisi and Odayami sat closely talking and laughing as usual, he reached over and gently took both of her hands in his. He asked her to marry him, exclaiming his wish that their two villages could be joined through their union. Odayami said he didn't care about royal customs or getting permission, he only knew that being with Adebisi made him truly happy, and he wanted them to build a life bonded in love. Princess Adebisi was overcome with surprised joy at his heartfelt proposal. She cried tears of happiness, having wanted nothing more than to be Odayami's wife, but assumed it could never come to pass. They would first ask Adebisi's parents, the king and queen, for permission to marry, then travel to Odayami's village to gain his family's approval and blessing too. The ecstatic pair clasped hands tightly as they set off on their new journey together, towards a future as husband and wife. A deadly, fast-spreading plague swept swiftly through the countryside. The early symptoms were a raging fever and skin covered in large, boil-like blisters. Within days, those infected would go into violent fits of madness, then fall deathly still. It was a horrific, painful way to die. No one was permitted to travel between the towns for any reason. If villagers tried to flee, they would be captured and quarantined, or even killed on sight by fearful guards. As the plague raged on week after week, residents hid in their family homes, terrified to interact with anyone who might be infected. All Adebisi's hopeful joy at the future with Odayami faded into a daily fear for his safety, without any way to reach him. The villages remained frozen in their quarantine isolation for endless months as the plague ran its course. Adebisi and Odayami could only pray the other was still alive. Despite isolating herself within the royal palace, eventually Princess Adebisi awoke feverish, with the terrifying red boils beginning to spread across her arms. Finally, in despair, the queen recalled an obscure tonic an old village woman had once brewed when Adebisi was little. Though repulsed, she had the doctor mix the potion made of bitter roots and weak-sword animal blood. They gently spooned the revolting concoction into Adebisi's mouth. Miraculously, just a day later the princess finally stirred. Though still very frail, Princess Adebisi had survived the illness that had killed scores of others. As Adebisi regained her strength, she noticed something astonishing. The prolonged fever had cured her of her chronic body odor. Her skin was fresh and supple and her smell was gone. Overjoyed, she shared the news with her parents and looked forward to reuniting with Odayami. As Princess Adebisi walked through the main gate of the castle for the first time in over a year, she held her breath nervously. Some even cautiously stepped nearer, wide eyes drinking in her beauty, looking entranced in her presence. The local young men in particular couldn't seem to stop boldly watching the princess's every move, their mouths hanging half open with affection. For the first time she could recall, Adebisi moved through her kingdom feeling strong, confident, and truly accepted. But walking through town, she spotted a familiar figure bounding eagerly down the road towards her. It was Odayami, her dear friend, companion, and bridegroom-to-be, who she hadn't seen in over a year since the plague hit. Adebisi's first eager impulse was to run straight into his arms with teary relief for his safety, but she cut herself short, doubt surfacing. Surely now she was too high above someone of common status like Odayemi. She was a pampered royal, and he is a drummer boy without notable wealth or family name to elevate him. Desperate delight shone through as he cried, "My princess, how I have missed basking in your beauty and radiance." He moved toward her as if expecting a warm embrace. But Adebisi stood reserved and still, making no move to welcome him back after their long separation. Odayemi joyfully stepped forward to hug Princess Adebisi, so thankful to see his beloved betrothed again after agonizing months apart. But the princess recoiled sharply away from his opening arms. A look of deep surprise and hurt flashed across Odayemi's face at her rejection. Confused, Adebisi stated that she no longer wished to continue their relationship. She told him that after enduring the plague's terrors and emerging more beautiful than ever, she now moved in different higher social realms than a common boy like Odayemi ever could. Odayemi looked deeply hurt by Adebisi's harsh words, his anguish evident on his face. "But Adebisi, I love you," he protested passionately. "These months of silence only made me love you more. I do anything to make you my wife?" Princess Adebisi met her gaze with a fiery glare. "You will address me as Princess Adebisi," she commanded coldly. "This conversation ends here. I deserve someone better than you." She spat out the words, feeling a cruel satisfaction in them. These influential men had once turned away from Adebisi in disgust. But now, shamelessly, they showered her with flattery, eager for the attention of the newly transformed princess. As weeks passed, King Oloke urged Princess Adebisi to quickly choose a husband from the numerous suitors vying for her hand before rumors damaged her marriage prospects. Wanting all eyes on her, Adebisi declared she would host a wrestling tournament, where the kingdom's strongest men would compete for the chance to marry her. Upon hearing this, men of great strength traveled from far and wide, eager for the opportunity to win the hand of the renowned beauty. In the days leading up to the tournament, Adebisi became obsessed with enhancing her appearance to outshine everyone. Slowly but surely, Adebisi's old body odor returned. On the morning of the wrestling tournament, the weather was perfect, providing an ideal backdrop to showcase Princess Adebisi's beauty. She entered the bustling arena, adorned in shimmering silks and adorned with jewels, aiming to dazzle the crowd. As Adebisi lifted her delicate hand to wave at the cheering crowd, their excitement suddenly changed. A surprised whisper spread quickly among the people. They moved away in disgust, wrinkling their noses at the strong smell coming from the princess. Embarrassed men hid their faces, looking away to avoid eye contact. Princess Adebisi felt deeply embarrassed when the tournament participants shook their heads and left, wanting to avoid her. The villagers watching the tournament also followed, talking quietly about her body odor and holding their noses in disgust. Adebisi felt utterly crushed and ashamed. She quickly removed her fancy royal clothes and jewelry, dropping them in the dirt. With tears in her eyes, she turned and ran away as fast as she could. As Adebisi ran, her eyes landed on one person standing alone across the tournament grounds, Prince Odayemi. He stood tall and straight, looking at her with kindness as she hurried away. After a moment, Odayemi walked purposefully towards her, his face showing both concern and sadness for her distress. When Odayemi reached Adebisi, he spoke gently to her. "My dear precious one, how could you think so little of our love and what we meant to each other? Why would you give up our bond for the fleeting attention of others? Tears rolled down Adebisi's cheeks as she shook her head. Please forgive me, Odayemi. I made a terrible mistake, thinking that looking beautiful on the outside was more important than our love. I was vain and careless, and now I've lost the most important thing in my life, your love and care. Odayemi smiled and took her hands. Love isn't about outward appearances. It's about the heart. Let's start anew, together. Adebisi, grateful and humbled, nodded. They embraced, and their love grew stronger than ever. From that day on, Adebisi learned to value true love and the beauty of the heart, living happily with Odayemi in the village surrounded by green hills and farms. The end.